Says going live. Oh, it says we are live.
Oh, sick.
So, basically, I'm just going to need somebody in the audience to confirm that they can actually hear me and that this is working the way it's supposed to be, and we can
Do
get
you
this
want to link
show on
it
the road.
first? Because I think it's. Oh wait, yeah, it's live. It's live. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're live.
Hey, somebody in the audience says they can hear us. This is fantastic. Well, I
Yeah, it looks
guess
good too.
well, I guess we're live.
Okay, let's go.
Well,
What
welcome
an
guys. This is literally my very first time live streaming ever. I just learned how to do this just now with improv with some help from my wife. Here we are. Um, I've got Disno and Triangles with me, and what we're doing in this video is we are going over the pairings for Callous Invitational 4 play-ins. And these guys have never seen these pairings before. They were drawn recently. These guys have no prior knowledge. It's just going to be live, authentic reactions. I just want to briefly explain, for those of you who are unfamiliar, how the play-ins work, and then we'll get right to it. So basically, there are two different 8-man brackets, and they're going to play best of 3, single elimination, and the winner of each bracket, the brackets have nothing to do with each other, they don't overlap at all. The winner of each bracket earns a spot in the Callous Invitational for main event. So basically, dumbing it down, you need to win 3 times. You win in the top 8, the top 4, the top 2, and you're in. These pairings were done completely randomly, as they will be the whole time. I just took the 16 people in the play-in pool. And Disno giving our thoughts on these pairings as they are announced. We're going to take probably minute and a half, 2 minutes per guy to talk about them, and we'll move on. So there'll be a few minutes in between each pairing, let you guys sweat it out a little bit. Anyway, most of you guys already know this information. None of you are here for that. It was only 2 minutes. Give me a break. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. So the very first pairing, this is in Group A on the left side of the bracket. Very first pairing is Jacob versus Teclis. Starting with me, I would say I think Teclis is the overall best player in these play-ins. I'm not saying that he has had the best overall career. That's probably Dexa, or that he has the overall highest ADV ceiling. Again, that is probably Dexa. But if we are looking at where the players are today, I think Teclis is the overall strongest player in the play-in. So with no disrespect to Jacob, who I had on my SPL team, who I think has only gotten better and better, to me Teclis is simply the better player, and I would pick him against anybody. So I'm going to predict Teclis to win this match.
So, yeah, so watching Teclis in SPL, his performance there was obviously quite underwhelming, but and he made some mistakes in certain late games, but I think it wasn't necessarily a case of lack of knowledge as much as maybe tournament nerves or experience in the big scene. And I think he's a very dedicated builder, and he's a talented player. And I would also favor him against Jacob here. I'd agree.
Yeah, I think I agree. Bouncing off what Dante just said, yeah, I think the Teclis SBL performance was pretty underwhelming from a couple of different standpoints. And, there was some plays there that were notably huge red flaggish mid plays or misplays, sorry. I think that there is definitely a little bit that's left to be desired there. But I also think that he's got a great general understanding of the tiers ins and outs. And a lot of top players do really think that Teclis is an elite player in some senses. That may just have been nerves, as you were saying, Dante. He's coming up against like Jacob. I don't know much about Jacob, but I know he's been playing in SBL. I know he's a really talented player elsewhere as well as in ADV. So I'm not quite too sure how to decide between these two. But I think I would give Teclis the edge just based on what I know he can do.
I'm just going to say before we go too far forward, so I don't repeat myself with every single pairing, that overall I think that these are the most competitive and high-end play-ins that we've had in the 3 years that we've had play-ins, and I don't think any of these matches are more than, say, 60-40 in any given direction, and a lot of them are probably even closer than that. So, I mean, for me anyway, I can't speak for you guys. Any of these picks that I make, I don't think that anyone is just a massive stomp or way, way better than their opponent. I think these are very competitive, which is a great thing. But anyhow, moving on to the next pairing, and Triangles will give his opinion first on this one. This is also in Group A on the left side of the bracket, so the winner here will face the winner of Jacob and Teclis. The next pairing is Kale versus Mele.
So I think Mel is one of the better players in terms of playing skill in the play-ins. He's done well in past play-ins. And I think if he's having any issues, they're going to come in the builder. I'd like to see him targeting specific opponents more with what he builds. As for Kale, watching Kale's games recently, it's felt a bit chaotic at times. He'll bring teams with glaring weaknesses. He'll throw a Pokemon out for no reason. But he does still win a lot. Whether he'll be able to get away with that against Mel is another question. I think I would favor Mel slightly in this.
I think I'm going with Mel on this one. He just seems to be really, really comfortable piloting whatever teams that he deems fit in his builder. I've seen him bring some really wacky stuff. Right now, he's spamming the crap out of like a sub-lefties Aero team. Like he can bring so many different things. I think he's a decent knowledge of the tier generally, and he plays quite actively with the passion. Whereas Kale is just coming back, and I don't know whether it's due to rust or just due to kind of whatever. But I think that like I've been playing him a good bit on ladder, and I've seen like his GXE on ladder and stuff, and it's not honestly that impressive. I would definitely give Mel the edge in this game as a player, but you know, it could just come down to the game.
So I've heard very mixed opinions. When it was just before the tour, and I was figuring out my final couple invites, and I was asking a couple of people, Disno being one of them, for second opinions on a couple of players. When I talked to BKC, who obviously is really good and knows what he's doing, and I asked him about Kale, BKC said that Kale should be in the main event, shouldn't even be in the play-ins, just straight to the main event. So it is possible that I am simply underrating or undervaluing the player. For me, in recent times, as recently as 2 weeks ago maybe, I ran into Kale several times on ladder, and I beat him without too much trouble. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but it happened. I felt like he was stuck in like the high 13s, low 14s, and I just wasn't impressed. Now, granted, ladder is one thing. Maybe he doesn't give a fuck. Maybe he's drunk. Maybe a tour is a different thing. But Mele, I think, is perpetually underrated and is really solid, whereas Kale, I haven't seen anything from him in recent times that makes me think he's going to really wow me. So I'm going to pick Mele for this as well. Okay, next pairing. This is what we're going to do. We got to throw a wrench in it, right? I'm not going to reveal the whole entire Group A because that's going to, by default, tell you who's in Group P. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to move over to the other bracket now to keep some people in suspense. So this next pairing, which Disno is going to tell us all about, this next pairing is in Group B, not the Jacob Teclis Kale Mele bracket, the other bracket. Group B on the left side of the bracket, we will be starting things with SSTJ versus Mikmer.
Okay, this is an interesting one. I feel if you're on the ladder a bit, you might know these guys a little bit better. Mikmer, to my knowledge, is a relatively, and I say that word in air quotes, like a relatively new player. But I don't know how new because he seems to know the tier pretty well inside out, to be honest. He uses a wide variety of teams, uses them well. And I think he's very competent. He can easily play the game and beat some of the best players, especially in best of threes. SSTJ, I think he's a bit more well-known. I think people know the guy around a bit better. He's pretty damn solid. If you've seen his ults on the ladder, if you've seen him playing tour games, he's pretty good all around. So I would give, if I had to make a call, I'd say I'd give SSTJ a bit of an edge. I've just seen slightly higher quality stuff from him. but Mick Murray is one of the fastest improving players on the circuit right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls off a couple of upsets here and there.
I am going to have to go with SSTJ. I have nothing against McMurray, but he's just not proven enough. It's as simple as that. I take nothing away from that really good team tournament that he had. I think in that tournament, some of the opponents that he beat were not amazing ADV players, not like terrible players, but I mean, not, SPL Callous Invitational quality opponents. Now, granted, it's not his fault who he gets paired against, and he did exactly what he should do in that situation, which is beat those guys handily. But I don't know that stomping on that kind of guy necessarily means that you're ready to play at this level. Now, obviously, I see the potential in the player, or he wouldn't be here. I invited him for a reason. But there's just not enough data, and I haven't seen enough. Maybe next year he's a star in ADV. I'm open-minded. But as of now, I just don't think he's shown enough to where I could pick him over someone that I know is good in SSTJ.
Okay, so I really like this matchup. I think SSTJ is a very exciting player to watch. He's able to defend well and play a measured game, but he's also not afraid to pull the trigger and make an aggro play. I was watching a couple of replays of him to prepare for this, and his signature killer move seems to be leaving a Monin in the face of danger to catch his opponent over-predicting, and it looked devastating when it was done right. I really like that. As for Mikma, so from what I've seen, he can use a wide range of teams as well, but he favors sort of by-the-book defensive balance. He uses quite a lot of Scarm. He appears to be building his own stuff. I like his builds a lot. Play-wise, he's a very patient player. He doesn't tend to act as the aggressor often. He prefers to sort of think about the late game, I think. So I think it's an interesting clash of styles here. As for who I'd say is favored, I think SSTJ is slightly more experienced, and I would give him a slight edge here, but I think both players could take this.
Fair enough. We are going to keep it on this side of the bracket. I don't even remember whose turn it is. Oh, it's mine, I guess. Oh, perfect. This pairing sucks, but this is on the same side of the brackets. This is Group B. These guys are going to face the winner of SSTJ and Mikmer, and this pairing sucks. I'm not happy. The next pairing is Bad Dummy versus TDK. Not happy about this one. Both of these guys, I really like both these guys. In Bad Dummy's case, this is his third attempt at play-ins. He has not made it in yet. He came within one game of doing it previously. TDK, on the other hand, was a main event invite 2 years in a row, and after going 0-4 has been demoted, but has gotten quite a bit better at ADV between now and then, and maybe not deserves to be in the main event at this point. The reason that he's not there is because I'm not willing to set the precedent that 0-4 gets to keep playing. But this is a crappy pairing because I really would have liked to have seen both of these guys succeed. On one hand, glass half full, one of them will be in the top 4 no matter what, but I'm not thrilled about this pairing. As far as who I pick, this one feels 50-50-ish to me. Oh man, I can't choose. I guess I'm going to go with Rick. I mean, I have hesitations about both of them. I haven't seen Rick be like truly dominant in ADV for at least 2 years, if not 3, whereas TDK is supposedly good and is certainly good at other gens, but like when he's played at this level, he's just gotten outclassed and gotten his clock cleaned. So it's hard. I have my doubts about both, but I'm going to go with the guy that I think is more motivated. That's going to be good old Bad Dummy.
Okay.
Yeah, so, sorry, was I not supposed to go there now?
No, triangles is
Is this
up.
not right?
Sure, I'll go then. Sorry about that.
I'm getting too jumpy here. I'm too excited.
Yeah, I just love the pairing. So watching TDK's series from CI3 again, I don't think he's a weak player at all. Versus Blight, I personally thought he was a little bit unlucky. And versus Star, he had two very poor team matchups. In the first game, he just had a team that really just sort of lost to Zapdos, of all things. So I think he's a good player. Maybe he needs to pick his teams better. But obviously, there's a lot of skill and a lot of tournament pedigree with TDK. As for Rick, he is also a very solid player. But I think he also needs to be a little bit more smart with his team picks. Sometimes I feel watching his games that because he favors sticking with his favorites so much that the teams can be a little bit outdated. But his sort of defensive, risk-averse style, it has its place and it can get wins. As for who I think is favored, I think TDK is slightly favored, but I think the series could go either way. Both of these players are two of the better players in play-ins, for sure.
Yeah, so I think I would go with TDK very comfortably on this one based on player skill, but my opinions have really changed on that because Badami Rick is playing insane right now. This dude is at the top of his level ever right now. I think he's at a zenith right now. He's topped the ladder and he's been top for quite a while, which is kind of strange. It's quite difficult to do that at the moment. It's kind of up and down, fluctuating a bit, but he is on top for weeks. He's playing some really, really good advance right now. So far, despite TDK being one of the best players out there, what was he, the most expensive SBL last year? Like he's never really shown up that much in ADV. Although that being said, his recent performances in the ADV team tour thing and whatnot, I think he's been really, really solid. And his ability to play the game generally is kind of showing in his advanced right now, which wouldn't be his main tier. So I like Dante. I do think this game is, the general opinion is going to be the TDK is the favor. But I think I'm going to go with my man Rick on this because he's playing some really good advance right now, and he has obviously the main advantage of having played the tier for a much longer time.
Hey, that seems to be our first disagreement here. We've been on the same page, but we have split decision on this one.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we're now moving back over to Group A. This is on the other side of the bracket, the right side of the bracket, and Triangles is going to be up first on this one. I will hold my thoughts. Triangles goes first. The pairing in Group A on the right side of the bracket is Watchhog against Gary Oak.
Okay. So Gary Oak was on the cryos. I got to know him a bit better as a person during that time. One thing, he's a genuinely interested builder, which a lot of people don't realize. I feel like some of the people in the play-ins and the main tournament indeed aren't really into building their own teams. They're more comfortable using other people's stuff, but he likes to build. He's also got great playmaking potential. He understands how to generate momentum and pressure and be the aggressor. But I've noticed sometimes he's liable to make a few blunders, and when he calculates late games, it's not always the right conclusion. So slightly rough around the edges, but a lot of potential there. As for Watchog, probably not watched enough of his games as I should. I know he's very dedicated to being a student of the tier, very interested in the tier, plays it a lot, done decently in tournaments. I've seen good things overall. I think it's pretty close here, but I would have to lean towards Gary Oak.
Okay, so this one's going to be a tough one for me. I think I'm relatively on the fence. So Gary Oak, from what I've heard, has been putting a huge amount of time into advanced, and that's not just for this tour. That's just in general. I've heard from friends of his that they spend a lot of time theorizing and building, and doing whatever together in regards to this tier. So I know he's a really good player. So I know those two things combined can be, can really, really skyrocket his stock up here. Watchog is an ADV main, and he's been kind of tutored by Lanier over the course of the last, year or two. So his ability has absolutely gone through the roof as well. Um, I think if Watchdog plays a calm game with his wits about him and just doesn't kind of ladder players kind of can easily kind of fall into clicking mode or whatever. I think if he just plays his normal tour game to the ability he's well capable of playing at, I think he's a real danger to anyone. And I can't. It's making it really tough for me to decide between the two of them. I think if you were going for an approach in regards to advanced, you would probably favor Watchdog a bit. So I think I'm going to favor Watchdog for this one.
Ooh, another split decision. I like those. This game excites me from the spectator perspective because these guys are more modern. These guys both were not playing ADV in like 2012, so they're not going to be stuck in their 2012 biases, their 2012 preferences. I think that both of them are going to have very up-to-date teams, very modern teams, and I would not be surprised at all if we saw things, Breelooms, mixed menses, things like that were just unheard of back in the day. Charizards, all that good stuff. Um, ugh, I'm gonna have to pick Gary. I I think Gary simply has the higher ceiling. I have seen Gary take games off of guys like Ojama and BKC and such. Now, granted, I've seen Watchog beat Lanier. I mean, everybody's beaten a good player at some point, but it feels to me like Gary is more consistently able to hang with the top end, where I've seen Watchog in the 1500s and I've seen Watchog struggle in the 1300s. I just feel like Gary is the more consistent player and has a bit of a higher ceiling. So while I don't think that this is a stomp, as none of these pairings are, I'm going to give the edge to Gary. Ooh, all right, next pairing, starting with Disno. We're going to, of course, move it back over to Group B, right? Because we can't spoil things for the viewers. We're going to move back over to Group B now on the right side of the bracket. Triangles is going to have the last say on this one, which is unfortunate because I know he's going to have things to say about this one. We have Dexa versus Alice.
Oh man, that's an exciting one. I'm just going to take a second to take that in. You got Alice, who's been performing so well recently. I know she made it to the finals of some tour there on Smogon recently. I can't remember what it was. Some ADV.
Winter seasonal.
Winter seasonal, was that it? Yeah. So
yeah.
Alice is playing at a really, really high level right now. And I already know from playing Alice and from seeing Alice play that she's really, really good. Has been doing so well in tournaments across the board recently, and definitely been a much more active player than Dexa. And Dexa is obviously way more accomplished in the tier, and has is kind of more well known as an advanced player. But I think his lack of recent, even just the fact that he hasn't been around recently, I think that's going to play into this definitely. I'm a big kind of believer in recency being a big teller of how someone's going to perform. I think Dexa can pilot every team and probably can pilot certain teams much better than Alice, but I think Alice is going to play the game to win a bit better than Dexa, so I've got to go with Alice on this one.
Well, I'm going to start with the praise. I think that Alice genuinely deserves to be here. I didn't invite her to play-ins because she donated or because I like her or anything like that. I think she genuinely deserves to be here. I think she was underrated to begin with. I think she has gotten way, way, way better since the last time most people have watched her play. And I think that there are several players in these play-ins that she is comparable or better than. All that being said, I have to go with Dexa. Now, granted, I don't feel super comfortable picking Dexa because you never know with him what you're going to get. If we're talking about a motivated, practicing, testing, give a shit Dexa, then he's the best player in these play-ins, and he's going to farm on these guys. If we are talking about the doesn't give a shit, going to show up and play a team I've never played before, I play Pokemon once a week Dexa, then I think Alice will probably win. But I think the ceiling between these two, there's a bit of a gap. I've got to go with Dexa. Maybe that's my own bias, being an older ADV player and someone who's known him for a long time. I would not be shocked if Alice won, especially if Dexa just shows up and doesn't give a shit, and this is not the stomp that it looks like on paper. This time a year or two ago, you would look at this pairing and just think, this is 80-20, this is 85-15. What the hell is Alice doing here? That is not the case anymore, but I will still pick Dexa.
Okay, so I'll start with Alice. So she has just come on in leaps and bounds in the last year. From personal experience, she was on the cryos helping Dom out, helping everyone out, in fact. And she's just a horrible and tricky opponent to face. I hated facing her. She's a very good short-term predictor, which can sometimes just win you games outright, getting a lead in the early game. I think if you had to point out a weakness in her play, it would be that she's still learning bigger picture stuff and long-term planning. She obviously had the very strong winners bracket run in the winter seasonal, but lost quite disappointingly in the final to Zom.
Yeah, nobody likes to see that guy win.
Absolutely. Tragic.
Just kidding, Zom.
Are you?
As for Dexa, he's obviously the most accomplished player in this tier in play-ins, and someone who I always admired and look up to as a player. However, the question is whether he gives a shit. Some people I've talked to just really haven't supported his inclusion in play-ins at all. And honestly, I'm on the fence about it too. I think he's got to prove himself, prove that he cares, me at least. As for what to expect when he plays, I think aggressive teams with maybe some unorthodox choices that will either be played incredibly well with those super sharp lines or fall flat on their face. I think from Alice's perspective, this game is going to be a really good early test for her, and she can prove that she's the real deal of a win. And as for predictions, a lot depends on what kind of Dexa shows up, but I would lean with Alice because I firmly believe that she is good enough to be even an on-song Dexa.
Very well. Let's see. 2 pairings left. Oh, I got the first say on this one. Beautiful. We're going to go back over to Group A. I mean, either way, by revealing one pairing, we reveal the other, of course, but we are going to address these one at a time. So the final pairing of Group A, so the winner here is going to face the winner of Watchog and Gary Oak. The final pairing of Group A is Roses versus Troller. Now, this one is interesting. Troller has been playing ADV for longer, as far as I know. He played it way back in the day, took a break, focused on other tiers, basically RBY, and then only recently has come back. Last year he played in play-ins and was swiftly bounced out, but he was just getting back into ADV then. Here we are a full year later. He's been playing it quite a bit in side tours, been playing pretty well, and I certainly think he's in a way better place than he was in last year. Roses, on the other hand, not getting too far down the rabbit hole of his history and some of the ghosting stuff, blah, blah, blah. Roses has successfully played through my play-ins before. When he did make it to the main event, he went 2-2, which is solid. He, I believe, beat some good guy. I think he beat Undisputed, and I don't remember who the other guy that he beat was, but I mean, it looked like he can really compete at this level when he cares. And from everybody that I talked to, because honestly, I was really hesitant to include Roses at all because of his reputation, but from everybody that I talked to, very motivated, somebody who works a lot, does a lot of practice, gives a shit, just grinds out games. And I think I haven't seen him play ADV in like 2 years, to be honest, but I think if he brings that kind of work ethic and I get a comparable thing from him that I got 2 years ago when he played through, I'm going to give the edge to Roses. I think the level of play that I saw from Roses 2 years ago, which very well may not be the same today, but the level of play that I saw from Roses 2 years ago is higher than the level of play that I'm seeing today from Troller. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Roses.
Okay, so with Troller, he's obviously a very talented and respected RBY player. I had occasion to watch some of his advance when he was playing CPL, and I honestly just wasn't very impressed. He took very standard conservative teams. He didn't do a lot either wrong or right with them, which sort of matches up with the RBY player mentality of just bringing the best thing and taking very organized, optimal lines. I think if he's going to do well in this tournament, he'll need to figure out how to surprise opponents more and maybe show some more aggression in order to do well. As for Roses, yeah, I think Roses is a decent player. He'll probably be using other people's teams. Nothing wrong with that. Not everyone's a builder. And he'll pilot them fine. A good pilot is absolutely fine in my book. Roses is experienced enough to not do anything stupid, not make mistakes, and is able to think out endgames well. I think Roses has an edge here, so I'm predicting Roses.
Okay, so I'm actually going to differ with my camaraderies here. I haven't seen as much from Roses as Callous spoke about 2 years ago, him shining really brightly. I haven't seen as much from him in recent times, but it's my decision is more based on Troller's competence. He just is amazing understanding of the game in general. Obviously, the jump from RBY to advanced it's just a completely different world. It's not really comparable at all. But when you have a guy with his playing ability and his incredible will to win, I am fully aware that he's going to be really committed to learning this tier as much as possible and digging his feet into the sand of it as well as he can. I know he already has been recently, and I know that as the tour goes on, as we get closer to the tour, he's going to have a lot more work put in. So I think that with his playing ability overall, he's going to be able to get the edge in this one, regardless of the fact that he doesn't know the tier as well historically.
And that leaves us, of course, with only 2 players. So you guys, of course, have already figured out what the final pairing is. We're going to let Triangle speak about it first. For clarity, this is Group B, and the winner here is against the winner of Dexev versus Alice. It is, of course, Welyu versus Bush Tush.
Okay, so I love this pairing. I think it's fantastic. This is one of the strongest pairings in my opinion. So starting with Bush Tush, he's got a great baseline and he cares more about the tier than people realize. And one thing I'd highlight with Bush Tush is that he's got a fantastic nerve and composure in battle, and he's got a fantastic sort of mental game and attitude to the game, which could serve him very well. As for Welyu, I like his chances a lot here as well. From watching his replays, he's picked the tier up recently a lot. He uses orthodox builds that are presumably from other people. And he's got a very hard to beat and patient playstyle. His general Pokemon understanding and knowledge of late games and what he needs to do to win serve him very well in this format. And I also don't think there's any lacking metagame knowledge. I just don't think that's going to be an issue. I think this is going to be incredibly close. Who I predict to win, I'm going to give it to Bush Tush.
Okay, I'm familiar with how good both of these guys are as players in general, but their advanced definitely is an area I'm a bit more foggy on. I know Bush Tush can play advanced pretty damn well, so and actually, no, I've seen Wello play a couple of tour games too, so I know he's pretty decent too. I mean, both of them are really they're absolutely top players in their own tiers elsewhere. So the real winner of this one is going to depend on how their transition to this tier suits them. I think that I'm slightly favoring Bush Tush. His mental attitude is just his mind is so strong. Really hard to break him, and yeah, I think he's got a really good. He really seems to play the game. He makes predictions even when it seems unsafe to do so, which is something as well that I think works quite well in advanced. So I'm going to lean slightly on his side for this one.
Oh man, this pairing, man. I mean, I have learned not to bet against Welyu. Welyu is good at every single tier that he plays, and he plays everything. Like he plays Oros really well, Gen 7 really well. You saw how well he did in SPL and Gen 8. Welyu, I guess, plays GSC now and has been winning. I know that he played Black White back in the day. He even plays lower tiers. I had him in playing lower tiers for me in POCL last year, and he went X and 1. It feels like Welyu is just good at any tier that he plays. It feels like he's just someone who is really, really good at Pokemon. So, like, right when I want to question his ADV, I look at his results in every other tier, and logic would dictate that maybe ADV is going to be similar. Bush Tush, I have seen. I don't know if a lot of people know him as an ADV player, but I mean, he's another one. These are both just giant slayers. Like, Bush Tush is the guy that beats ABR in OU. Bush Tush is the guy that beats Finch in Black White. I mean, I've seen both of these players take down really, really strong opponents. So, I mean, there's just so much talent in this pairing. I think I'm kind of with Disno in that I don't know that I or anyone has seen these guys play enough ADV, especially recently, to really be comfortable. So, I mean, this one, flip a coin as far as I'm concerned, but for the sake of having to make a pick, I guess I'll go with Bush Tush, but I have not had faith in Welyu. Like, I've had him on my team a couple of times. Dude, do you really play Black White? Do you really play DPP? I don't know, man. I don't want to spend 20,000 on you to play those tiers. And then he just goes undefeated casually, because of course he does. So I wouldn't be surprised if Welyu ends up being really, really good, because he's good at every tier. Finch is saying that Bush never beat him in Black White. I remember a POCL where he did beat him in Black White. I will link it, but I'm gonna pick Bush Tush.
Oh no, or Finch. I'll take
Anyhow,
the loss.
no, it happened. It was in POCL. I remember it was like 3 years ago. Anyhow, now that we have all the pairings, we will get to the bread and butter of the matter. We have the pairings, we have the brackets. Let's talk bigger picture here. So, Triangles, you could start us off here. Let's. Who do you like in Group A and why? Who wins, and who's the most likely player to win Group A? Who's the second most likely player to win Group A, and why?
Okay, so I think Group A is the weaker of the two groups. And my pick for the winner of Group A is Gary Oak. As we've all mentioned before, he's very interested. He really enjoys applying himself to the tier. I think he's going to see this as a chance to sort of like his breakout tournament in the tier. Yeah, and as for second most likely, I think there's quite a few people who are roughly even. I think Mel, Roses, Heckless, even Watchog all have the potential to succeed. But I think Gary is above the other seven.
I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm just looking at the groups here, and it doesn't seem to be updated as far as the one that Golden has just put up. What are you guys looking at to see the groups that I can't see what?
I thought he had it updated. Group A is Jacob and Teclis, Kale and Mel.
Let me just put it in the chat.
Watchog and Gary, and Roses and Troller is Group A. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, the space.
Yeah, I put it in there.
All right, thanks. All right, so I'm thinking Group B is richer in talent. Just looking at it, you got like Welu, Bush Tush, Dexa, Alice, TDK, but Badami. I think that they're like, yeah, I think they're the top six for me almost. Bar maybe stick Teclis in there as well, and yeah, Mel could probably go in there somewhere. But I think for the most part, Group B is richer in talent. Who am I expecting to win? Is it just one player you want me to?
No, I want two. I want the most likely and the second most likely, as far as you're concerned.
All right. So most likely, I'm thinking either TDK or Badami. I'm going to go with TDK based on his overall player ability, and then for second one, it's gonna be either Badami or Troller. I think I'm going to go Badami. So yeah, TDK and Badami, which is why that matchup is so disastrous.
So your two picks from Group A and Group B, who are the most likely to?
Sorry. I actually picked two Group Bs. TDK for Group B, and for Group A, I might go for. It's a toss-up between Troller and Techless. Actually, I might go Techless. Yeah, so Techless and TDK.
Techless and TDK. Well, man, fuck me on Group B. I'm gonna say Techless in Group A because, as I stated originally, I do think that Techless is the overall best player right now, anyway, in these play-ins. But for Group B, man, wow. Group B is loaded, man. I don't know. I mean, like, if you're a Mickmer believer, maybe it's him. If you think Rick is dominating ladder right now, maybe it's him. If you think TDK is uber talented Pokemon player, maybe it's him. And then of course there's Dexa, Welyu, Bushtush in this group. I mean, obviously I can't pick like 6 guys, but wow, Group B is stacked. Most
Yeah, I think Group B is much stronger.
most likely player out of Group B, man. I should have prepared for this. I really don't know. I mean, is the boring pick just Dexa? I don't feel uber confident about it, but I mean, is it just Dexa? Maybe it is. Yeah, I guess I'll say Dexa, but I
Give the
mean,
audience CALLOUS, they're waiting for you.
I'll say Dexa, but I wouldn't be. Would you be surprised if Dexa lost in round 1? I mean, it's just such a you don't. He might not even. He might show up and not give a shit. He might lose right in the first round. But yeah, I'm gonna say Techless out of Group 1. Mela is gonna be my second pick out of Group 1, and then I will go with Dexa and oh man, it's Rick's year, boys. It's Rick's fucking year. We're gonna go with Dexa and Bad Dummy for Group 2. And then we're basically done. I'll let you guys get in. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and get those final thoughts in, though. Tell me who. Oh, God. Finch is still going on about the Bush and Black White thing. But anyway. Give me the final thoughts, guys. Who's the sleeper pick in any given group? Who's the non-obvious person in each group that could ruin it and take the whole thing down?
Okay, so I think initially I only actually talked about Group A, so I just wanted to quickly mention Group B.
Please.
Group B, my main pick is Alice, and my quiet sleeper pick is SSTJ.
Ooh.
Okay. This is a tough one. Group A sleeper. I'm gonna go. Oh, it's tough. I'm gonna go Gary Oak because I think that he's gonna surprise most people when you consider the fact that he has just been doing a huge amount of advanced. He actually has a huge passion for ADV, and he's been playing a lot of RSC in his own time and just theorizing and building. In Group B, it honestly could be anybody, as you said earlier, CALLOUS. It could be anybody, and it wouldn't be surprising. But I actually think that I don't think it's as obvious that Dexa is the next best player or the best player in that group. I think that winning and doing really well in SBL 4, 5, 6 is not the same as 7, 8, 9. I think that the game has just been increasing. The standard for overall play has increased immensely in the last couple of years, and the theory for the game has increased. And he hasn't really put in a super impressive performance anywhere in recent times. Also, he's just been extremely demotivated and uninterested. And I don't see why that would suddenly start changing when it didn't start changing for the last tour, the last CALLOUS Cup and whatever. So I'm not as keen on him as most people would be, but you know, I won't disregard a legend. I think for a sleeper pick, I'm going to go Bush because he is really, really good in other tiers. And you know, if he makes the right kind of transition, that could transpire really well for him in this tier as well.
Sleeper picks. A. Well, I think.
So A. Oh, sorry.
No,
Do
go
you want
ahead.
me
Go
to
ahead.
reiterate?
No, go ahead.
Sorry. A is. Let me see. Who did I pick? Oh, I pick Arioch for A, and then B is Bush Dutch.
Well, I think the obvious sleeper pick. This one's easy. It's like the easiest call I made all night. The obvious sleeper pick for me. It's got to be just Mikmer, right? I mean, if this guy is like secretly the next linear, like if this guy is just, we don't really know, nobody's really sure about him, but this guy's fucking ridiculous. It's got to be him, right? I mean, what if this guy just 2-0s through play-ins? Can you imagine he just goes 6-0 in games? Like, what is that going to feel like in the main event when someone gets paired against him? Like, who the fuck is this guy, and why does he just beat everybody? Like,
This is a terrifying prospect.
yeah, I'm gonna go with Mikmer for Group B. As far as
Some
Group
anime
A
shit.
for a sleeper, I'm gonna pick Roses. I mean, yeah, he's played through successfully once before. Why couldn't he do it again? Yeah, I'm gonna go with Roses, and I don't think he's someone that most people are looking at and going, he's probably the favorite in this group. He's probably gonna make it out. I mean, I don't think people don't respect him, but I don't think people are quaking in their boots the way that they might be with one or two of the other players. So I think that he might be sneaky good if he's motivated, and he might actually be the first player to ever make it out of play-ins twice. Well, so that about wraps it up. Hey, I said we'd get this done in about 45 to an hour. We got it done in 46. That is not too bad. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Triangles Disno, thank you very much for joining me. These are some really good pairings, and I look forward to watching them and casting them just as you guys do. See you then.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, likewise, man.
And we're off.